Welcome back to the stand. Well, today on set we have three students from United States International University. On my right, I have William Orui, then I have Rida Rahel and Mohammed Qadir. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, last week there was the United States elections, and we probably figured out who the president is, like we already know, yeah? Donald Trump. Well, maybe just to start with you, Bill, what do you... Okay, wait. Yeah, just to start with you, Bill, what's your take on it? Did you support, were you for Donald Trump or against Donald Trump?
Well, my take is that Donald Trump was speaking the people's minds. His comments may have been controversial or harsh, but that is what really people thought. And they showed that on the ballot box.
And what about you, Rita?
Well, I would like to say that Donald Trump was the choice of the American people. And what he said, they reflected and they felt like he was saying what they wanted him to say. So they chose him. So I think it was primarily the choice of the Americans themselves, and they chose who they wanted.
What about you, Mohammed Qadir?
I think Donald Trump won because people wanted change, and change was inevitable. But for me, I supported Hillary Clinton because I always wanted to see a woman president leading the free world. But the people's choice is what we have seen in the United States elections, and that's the final.
Okay, well, just before we go on, I'd like to pinpoint that the three of you are from three different nationalities. Bale, where are you from?
Kenyan.
You're Kenyan. What's your nationality, Rita?
I'm Pakistani.
I'm Somali.
I'm Somali. Oh, you're Somali. So, basically, if Trump's campaign, his slogan, he championed for racism, anti-Muslim, and things like that. So, coming to you, Bill, you say that he expressed, he was simply amplifying the thoughts of the Americans. So do you see the majority of people who voted for him as racist?
Well, I wouldn't want to say they're racist. What I would want to say is that they have a particular nationalistic point of view. They believe the country belongs to them and not to outsiders. And this was, seen through, for example, Brexit. So really, it's not something new. It's something that has been rising ever since the British moved out of the EU, and so they picked up on the same wave.
And since Trump took into power, so there's this notion of white supremacy. What's your take on that, Rita?
Well, I would say I wouldn't particularly use the words white supremacy as the change. I would say that there is definitely a change in status quo. And so there is a global trend, as he was trying to explain, of nationalism rising again. And so there will be a change in that sort of the global arena. Yeah.
And after the elections, we've been seeing riots from different states. America is a liberal democracy. It's a liberal democratic state. So we didn't expect that. So do you feel that it's losing? America, it's no longer being the liberal country in the world?
I think I'll begin by saying democracy is the will of the people. And that's what makes America liberal. Regardless of the current governments in opposition, opposing Donald Trump, the American people have exercised their will. And I think Donald Trump was just talking to some people who felt that they were marginalized. But I think from his victory speech, he said he's the president of the United States. He's the president of every American, regardless of his background, regardless of his religion. And that makes America a hegemony again. But if Trump continues with his rhetorics and reckless statements, that's now what will diminish America. But for now, I think the people, America is a liberal state because the people have exercised their will to elect Donald Trump.
Uh-huh. And you mentioned Donald Trump victory speech, and if you actually follow the speech like to the latter, you'd actually realize there was a change of heart. Well, before, as I said, he was so like he was into racism, like America is for the whites. He was against the Latinos. He wanted even to build a wall over Mexico. But then now, in his victory speech, and I quote, he said, "We are Democrats first. We are not Republicans first. We are Americans first. We are patriots first." So do you see a change of heart there?
I think Donald Trump, during the elections, he was targeting certain people who voted for him. But after the elections, America is a liberal state, and that's why he said that let's come together and form the government, because if Trump fails, America fails. And that's why Democrats and even Hillary Clinton said that he is our president. That shows that how mature is American democracy. And I don't think Trump will make any difference. And you always know, they say politicians build a bridge where there is no river. All he said was just to get, were just memes to get votes from the American people. He wanted to look different from Hillary Clinton, and that's what, and he got the votes he wanted, and now he is the president. The next thing is to unite the people and move forward. Yes.
And talking about Hillary Clinton, she's been in office for like over 30 years, yeah? So like, what do you think, like, the people who voted for Trump were so against her?
I think Hillary was a Clinton, and the people wanted to get rid of the dynasty. These people wanted change. They wanted someone who has not been in government, because Trump looked different from Hillary Clinton, because he has never been into political office, has never been in any government position, and that makes him, you know, the extraordinary guy for these elections.
True. What about you, Rita? What do you think?
I think that people wanted change, as we've mentioned before, and they've seen that the same regime and the same ways of going about the governing style has been going on since the previous presidents, and so they wanted to see change. And what Hillary represented was somewhat similar to what had been going on before. So the regime change was what the people wanted, and that's why they voted for Trump, regardless of the fact that he had some quite concerning comments that you keep bringing up, for example. So yes, he did have some concerning comments, but in the end of the day, politics is about getting to the people's heart at the moment, and then you can change your mind or change what you're saying based on the situation, and people forget what you've said before, of course.
What about you?
I think what they didn't like about Hillary was she represented the establishment. The idea of politicians getting rich by lying to the people and by misdirecting funds. And so his call of the establishment is about to rig the election, and it's out against him, resonated with many people who didn't want to come out publicly. And this is why then they voted for Trump. Unexpectedly, they voted for Trump. So yes, a change is what they wanted.
Well, Donald Trump, he's an established businessman. Like, he's one among the richest Americans, yeah? So like, do you think his business and his wealth could have also influenced the minds of Americans to like vote for him in the hope that maybe the economy could be better and they could take their place in the world well before China overtook them as the largest economy? What do you think?
I think that China is a rising economy, and eventually, yes, it will take over, due to not just because of the traditional technological advances that have been the reasoning for overtaking in the previous years, but now it will be because of the population rise and the fact that they have such a strong and working population, right? So for the US, and the people voted for Trump because yes, they want a change in the economic status, but change in the power of the global arena is inevitable, to be honest.
Well, as you mentioned, yeah, China is a rising economy, but then at the same time, China it has like favorable factors that you don't find them in America. For example, its production rate is higher than the consumption rate. But then in America, we have higher consumption rate than the production rate. And most of the exports from China are directed to America. So what do you think?
What do you think about
Yeah.
building a business or China?
Like, what do you think? Do you think America could actually supersede China?
Well, that's a tricky question. I think both America and China need one another. But because Trump is a business person and he has wealth, people were attracted to that because he represents the American dream. That you can be wealthy and powerful, and so maybe possibly he could change the state of affairs between America and China. But at the current moment, I don't see America superseding China.
Yeah, and recently, Putin, the president of Russia, in his speech to congratulate America for its election, he actually mentioned that America, they want to regain its relation with Russia. And according to him, he says he's willing to do his part, but then he actually does not believe that the relationship could go to the way it used to be. Do you think he maybe doubts Trump?
I think on foreign policy, the US has strong foreign policy, and it has strong institutions that deal with the foreign policy of the US states. I don't think, this world is first an interdependence world whereby people need each other. And Trump's foreign policy said that he will work with Russia in the Middle East war. He will work with Russia to get peace. And I think we can see Russia. We can foresee Russia and US working together in Trump's presidency. And I hope that happens because they are the only they are the only powers in the international systems, and the political issues in the Middle East have escalated for so long. And one thing we're hoping and we think that we will see is end of the Syrian war.
Yeah.
If Trump collaborates with the Russians.
Yeah. Talking about the end of the Syrian war, we all know that the Syrian war is a proxy war. It's been there since 6 years and we do not see an end to it. Russia, it has interests in Syria. What do you think could be like the solution to that?
Well, I do think one of the first immediate solutions should be to have an arms embargo. There should be no sale of weapons or donation of weapons to rebels. And at the same time, America and Russia should stop bombing Aleppo, if I may be specific. That's the only way you can really solve this issue, to me.
I feel like that's the first step, where you start by a ceasefire, then you have a sort of disarmament, to start instigating a disarmament process, and then you have to start talking about Russia and US and the both parties within Syria coming down and talking about a solution which would in my opinion, might even start with the Assad regime and President Assad coming and sitting with the rebels and all of them coming to an agreement of some sort if possible.
Yeah, well, Syria, as I said earlier, Russia has interest in Syria. But then if you actually follow the Clinton campaign, Hillary Clinton campaign, she said that she would want to go to Syria and probably remove Assad as president. And that would have actually created a war between Russia and USA. Do you think maybe if Hillary would have been president, there would have been chances of a World War III?
No, I don't think so. This world, the contemporary international relations is been taken by diplomacy. And I don't agree. I support Hillary Clinton on many things, but on that policy towards Russia, because I am a realist and I believe that the state is the only actor. If we remove Assad, who will take over?
Yeah.
Because we removed Gaddafi, we removed, you know, what's happening in Yemen. You know, let's have a person, a state that we can deal with. Sit down with the current regime, talk to them, have diplomacy, then we can move on and have elections in Syria. But the way it's moving, you know, the way these things are moving, I think it's unrealistic to remove Assad with Russian support. Yes.
And a mention of Gaddafi, we realized that Trump, he's made so many statements that are actually in support of, or in a way, the statements are to like point out that this people like Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, who were like dictators, he was actually stating that the world was better with them than without them. Do you think that's true in any way?
I feel like the Arab Spring on its own was not successful in most of the countries that where it occurred. So Tunisia was one success story, but if we look at all of the other ones, once the regime was toppled, there was outbreak of violence and it was not very stable in a way. So it wasn't as successful as people wished it was. So I feel like regime change in that particular manner did not work out for the Arab countries for some reason. So I think that it was not exactly successful.
Do you have the same thought as Rita?
Well, I think that under those regimes, there was stability, and the country was in a position to continue its policies. But the violent changeover of regimes that happened during the Arab Spring, she's mentioned, and along with Gaddafi, caused political chaos. And so Trump saying that things were better when they were there was him confirming there is no stability and peace.
Well, that's nice. And like Trump, Donald Trump, sorry, yeah, like the guy, he also mentioned that and I quote, political staff is nasty and tough. Do you think with that statement, a president who actually uses that statement in his winning speech, do you think he could do it?
Well, being in the position that he is, he has to, because he was chosen by the people in the superpower, the USA, and so he has the responsibility on his shoulders already, and that has made him a little less extreme, as per se, as he has taken back many of the things he had said before, and he is in a position where he has to. He does not have a choice.
Yeah, and how does, maybe just for you, William, how does Trump's victory affect Kenya?
Well, there's been a lot of fear spreading and panic attacks after he won. At this moment, I think we cannot be very real or very sure what relation between America and Kenya will be. I think the best thing for us to do is to give him 1 year, or at least let him be inaugurated into office, and then we'll see what he thinks about the country and what he thinks about our relations.
And for you, Rita, you're from Pakistani, a country that's most of the population are Muslims, and with Trump's anti-Muslim speeches, do you think maybe Pakistan, what's the stand on Pakistan? Do you feel threatened?
Well, to be honest, I feel like with this sudden change in regime, I would say that Trump's concerning point of view will change based, and even if it does not change, we do not know, as he has not made any statements as per yet, and he has not been inaugurated into office yet. So we have to wait and see, and let's see what he will say.
And Mohammed Qadir, well, you're from Somalia, and due to the instability in Somalia, there's so many refugees who came to Kenya, and most of them have gone to America. Yeah. So, like, what do you think your fellow Somalis in America are feeling right now? Do they also feel threatened, or like, do they feel safe?
I think the United States is a land of opportunity. And by the fact that saying that the Somalis feel threatened, we already have a Somali member of the Congress, member of Parliament, Ilham, and I think Donald Trump. There is one thing we should agree, that the United States is not a banana republic. There is strong institutions. The president has his own institution. There is other institutions that are above the presidency, and I think he cannot bring back any person. He does not have that authority in his under his capacity as a president. And there will be some problems, but I think Trump has problems with the immigrants. But the legalist Somali guy who's living in the U.S. will not have a problem with his administration, because under the U.S. Constitution, every U.S. citizen has same immunity in the country. Yes.
Well, just to look at the time Barack Obama was president, what are the key things, or what are the things that you think he actually fulfilled as president of the United States?
I think he was able to reestablish relations between Africa and the U.S. For example, him coming to Kenya and unleashing programs such as Power Africa that allow African states to get money to increase power supply were very crucial in telling the world that Africa has become the new frontier in terms of investment. And so I think he did well in terms of improving relations between America and Africa.
There's this controversial about the Obamacare. What's your take on that, Rita?
I would say that in his defense, that he really tried to open it up and have it easier for people who are poor to afford it. But he really did try to make it easier for people in his defense, and he may have succeeded on some levels, and he also tried in other terms, other than just the Obamacare, adding on to what he was saying, that he did try and open up the Americas in terms of foreign policy, and he made the relation between USA and Cuba stronger, and he was more of an inclusive or open-hearted type of foreign policy. And that's another one of his achievements in office.
Yeah, and when Obama when he became president, like one of his campaign slogan was to actually close down Gitmo Bay. Well, what do you think? Since he couldn't fulfill that, do you see it coming to an end in Donald Trump's regime, or is it just going to be more functional this time around?
That's why I was saying Trump can say anything, but there is strong institutions that guide the U.S. governance, and that's the one thing that hindered Obama to close Guantanamo Bay, and I think this will go on. I don't think I don't foresee the closure of Guantanamo Bay in any time soon in Trump's presidency. But this shows clear indication that the president can say something, but to implement it is very hard if it's against the law.
Yeah. So the president doesn't have the full power in America compared to other countries in the world. For example, in Africa, where a president could decide something and then it's carried out. So do you think now that most of the Senate, what's the representation of the Senate? Are they more of Republicans or Democrats? What do you think?
Well, in this election, Republicans have taken both Congress and the Senate.
So
in this instance, regarding your question, if you might be able to change a few things, you might be able to do it because now the party rules the houses. So there's a possibility things could happen.
I don't agree with him on this because the current Speaker of the Senate was against Trump's policy, and they met yesterday, last night, and they have agreed upon on mutual understanding and cooperation, because some of the Republicans believe that Trump's campaign slogans, some of them were not uniting the American people, and they did not support him. And that's make him that if he brings reckless motions to the house, to the both houses, there's high chances that he will not pass it, because Republicans believe that America is one and people should live in one environment peacefully.
Well, that could be true, but then also if the speaker is against Trump, he doesn't make the rules. It's like a debate, so all he does is just enforce it. So do you think, Rita, that helps?
I feel like the opinion of one does not matter. There's a lot of stuff that goes underground and covertly in terms of lobbying and all of that. And being that the Congress is made up of his party, so there might be room for change because of the fact that there are more people who are representing his point of view, as per se.
And the nuclear war, like there's always a problem about the people who hold nuclear power. For example, one of the threatening countries we have now is North Korea. Well, what do you think what is the future of the nuclear weapons in the world?
I do think idealistically, no state should have nuclear weapons. But looking at reality the way it is today and North Korea, I do think that some states should not be allowed to dictate to other states what they should own and what they should have. North Korea is arming itself because it knows it's not secure in terms of America. It knows America can bomb it any moment it feels like. And so its rationale is to arm itself nuclearly and therefore keep America at bay.
Do you hold the same opinion as him?
I would say that the fact that so many countries in the global arena hold nuclear power is dangerous, actually. And so to some extent I agree, but the fact is that it's not as big of a threat as we think, because it kind of creates a domino effect. So if one fires a nuclear weapon, so will the others, and that is very destructive. It could potentially even wipe off humanity. So these sorts of chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons, this warfare is a tricky game, and it will not be instigated very easily, and I doubt it will be instigated at all because of the threat it poses to humanity itself.
What about you? Do you have the same opinion as them?
I think the issue of North Korea is just exercising its muscles. She's showing that, I'm a strong nation. But I don't foresee U.S. attacking North Korea because of China, because China is a great ally of North Korea, and that makes things very hard. I don't think even the world will see another nuclear attack, because the U.S. and the superpowers, and the U.S. specifically, regrets the nuclear attack in Japan in 1945. I don't foresee a nuclear war in the contemporary international relations.
Well, that's good to know. Let's just go back to the elections now. Do you think Americans, like American citizens, are not so open to the idea of having a woman president? Do you think that's an issue, or maybe it's Hillary? What was the issue? Is it the woman president or Hillary?
Well, I think gender is still an issue in America. Let's go back to 2008. You had Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton on the Democratic nomination seat, who was going to be picked to represent the party. And they picked Obama over Hillary. Now, coming back to 2016, Trump made some very disturbing comments regarding women and yet they still vote for him. So does this mean that women are not considered leaders by Americans? Possibly, going by what Americans have chosen to do at the ballot box. So for me, gender remains an issue.
Well, before we go on with that, he mentioned that Donald Trump, he made certain statements against women, but then we also see that the women voted for him. Do you think maybe they're so open-minded, they don't actually see that affecting them as a woman? Rita, you being a woman, would you like vote for somebody who's so anti-woman?
Well, I would not. I don't know if I would, because I'm not an American, of course. But if I were in their position, I would think twice, I would say, maybe. And it's their opinion in the end of the day. Maybe we could say that women are accepting it, and maybe they're not thinking about the fact that he said this, because in the end of the day, what you say is not what you mean in terms of politics. And politicians use that to their advantage at times to get certain votes. And well, I would say that I would not exactly know what to do in a position like that.
And so do you still hold the same opinion as him? Was the issue Hillary being a woman, or was it the issue just Hillary as a person?
The issue for these elections were about the rich and the political dynasties. But for Hillary losing, I think it's because of women. Because I said this, more than 65% of the women population in the US voted for Donald Trump. And this is it's a double standard from the American women, because they say in Africa, basically, if I choose an example, they say 30% quota for women, let's have a women president. But you know, there was, and even Donald and Obama said that there is no more qualified person than Hillary Clinton for these elections. But women, on this hand, they talk a lot on women empowerment, women president. But when the election day comes, they do nothing about it. And I think it's because of women that Hillary Clinton did not become the United States president. But she said in her concession speech that she did not make it, but someone else will make it.
Yeah, she even actually gave like a time period, sort of. She said sooner than we think. Do you think maybe she's trying to give us a hint of maybe a possible woman candidate?
Well, more like she's saying that she's hopeful for change. That's my opinion. And also that Hillary didn't come into power, I would say, contrary to your opinion, that Hillary is the one who's been running. So all our experiences of a woman candidate have been Hillary, like in the recent contemporary times, the last two times, right? So just the fact that it was the same person might have some connotations, and also the fact that 65% of the women, as you said, were the ones who voted for Trump. So if majority of the women are voting for Trump, that doesn't imply that women are the ones who are contrary to change. It's just that the women saw him more of a candidate than Hillary. So she didn't get into the hearts of those women specifically. So I don't know if women themselves are the problem here.
Yeah, and just again, through her speech, Hillary, when she was making her speech, you could see like the audience, most of them were girls, teenagers, they were really crying. And from that, do you think it's going to affect their mindset? Would you think that maybe one of them in the crowd who wanted to be president actually thinks right now it's so impossible for a woman to become president? How do you think that affects them?
Well, with the election, a victory of Trump, and given his comments about women, and as you mentioned, the women who were the audience at his speech, it really does affect their esteem, because here was a woman who spoke to all people. He was a man who spoke against women, and still he was allowed to win. He was acting like a bully, and he won. You know, he wasn't punished for it. So they may have had high hopes, but now the hopes have been crushed. So unless the presidency or Hillary, along with her team, tries to revive people up, the ladies, the women up, they might really not want to become president again or vie for it.
Do you think the same?
No, I don't think it's completely shattered. Yes, it did hurt them, the fact that a woman president didn't come to power yet, when there are so many other countries like Rwanda who have such a strong woman empowerment in the government system. And then you see Pakistan has also had a woman prime minister, and stuff like that. The women have been in power in so many LEDCs. Well, the superpower has not had. So yes, that does have its effects, but I don't think it's completely shattered their dreams. And a woman could come into power still.
And he mentioned Trump as a bully. Like, yeah, we've seen so many teachers are complaining in America that there's been a rise in cases of bullying in schools. Well, Trump, is he actually a good role model to the kids? Should what he says be curtailed? Should it be limited now that he's president?
Well, I'd say that Trump does have his drawbacks in terms of vocally what he says. But I guess being in office and the time that he spends in office, he might learn to filter those thoughts. And in terms of the teachers who are complaining, I guess the schools will have to handle that sort of a situation in their own way and talk about anti-bullying and stuff like that. So that's more on a local school level where they can handle such instances, while the role model being the president himself. Well, he needs to also work on the things that he says sometimes and filter out those things. And I feel like he might learn those things more and more while he is in office.
Yeah. Well, so what Rita is trying to say in short, we should give Donald Trump some time, let him try to be endorsed as a president, let him realize he's president now and he should watch what he says. Do you think time could actually maybe have an effect on changing his character and what he actually says, sometimes without even thinking about the consequences?
I think during the campaign, Trump was targeting certain people, but now he's the president. I think he will not be going that way. I believe that he will prove people wrong, that he's not the guy that people they think he was. He may be if he stops these bigotry statements, he can be one great president of the United States because of his policies, because he has strong domestic policies, but his foreign policy is a bit reckless. But if he changes it and he thinks that now he's the president of the United States, regardless of who lives there, I think he will prove people wrong, and he will be a great president.
Maybe just the last question and the most important question in this show. So what's your stand on America, your individual stance? Let's start by him.
Can you just clarify the question?
What's your final word? What would you conclude this show with? What's your final word?
I think people have power. And you never know what is in their minds until they vote. And so what America has shown is that regardless of what people say, regardless of what opinion polls tell you, come election or come any other time of politics, you have the power to change things.
What about you, Rita?
I would say that it's a time for change, and we've seen that on a global level with Brexit, with America, so we're in for some ride.
What about you, Mohammed?
I think America and Trump presidency should not operate on isolationism, because when he does that, then that will be a fall of a superpower. But if he continues being the president and the U.S. continues being that state who take care of everything, that superpower state, then I think they will remain and be a better state with the Trump presidency. But if Trump remains to be the way he is, then we will be witnessing a downfall of a superpower. Yes.
Well, it was actually a really fruitful discussion, and thank you guys for being here. Well, that's it for today on The Stand. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum.